Alright guys, I thought I was going to be done with my videos, but as I was doing my paperwork for my patient paperwork for tomorrow, I came across a letter saying, "To whom it may concern, Miss Chronically Happy was seen in the genomic medicine service at the VA Medical Center. She has been diagnosed with hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos syndrome based in the 2017 criteria. Sincerely, blah, 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 Salt Lake City, Utah." And I actually spoke with a Dr. Ball, who is one of the lead, big part of Ehlers-Danlos Society Foundation and organization. He's one of the lead researchers for hEDS in Utah that works in conjunction with the VA Medical Center. It's freaking amazing. I am so glad I got to talk to him face to face. It was the best experience to be able to tell him face to face via video conference that thank you for all the research that you're doing and trying to help the community to understand what is all wrong. But let me backtrack this a little bit. So I got medically discharged at the age of 30. I started having pain when I was doing command PT one day. I was running. One moment. Gotta move my exercise ball here. So, command PT, I was stationed in Hawaii shore duty, and I was running PT. Command PT with all my command, my co-workers, and all of a sudden, here, I started getting a very sharp shooting pain down my back. And so I stopped running. I stopped running to, I was like, what the heck? And then my chief came up behind me, jogging up behind me like, "Hey, Miss Happy." Not going to use my name. I'm trying to keep a little bit of anonymity. Anemone. Can't help myself. Yeah. I have speech issues, dyslexia. Yeah, I can sound it out, but my mind is going a mile a minute, so I'm just trying to tell my story. This is my story about getting diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but I had to backtrack and tell you where all the pain began and what started the whole journey to get me to even think about what is wrong with me. Because me in the military, me in the Navy, spent a good 2 years at chiropractic massage therapy. I mean, the gambit, the medications, the antidepressants, the anti-anxiety, the pain medications. I mean, they threw everything at me. And I was not getting any better. Every time I ran, that pain just started shooting down my back, but then it started to be a constant pain all the time. And we even tried to we got me a day shift job because that was the only way I was able to go to my doctor appointments. The shift work wasn't conducive for that. So I got a good daytime job. I need to lower this. Makes it look like I'm topless. I'm not topless. I have a shirt on. So I went to my doctor appointments, and yeah, I mean, we tried everything for 2 years. We took an MRI, and I mean, I don't know if I got the MRI while I was in the service. It's hard to get a hold of records in the service, let alone, I think I would have to get a hold of the hospital again which I incidentally ended up doing volunteer work at the hospital, the Army Medical Hospital in Hawaii. Hawaii was my last duty station. Boo-hoo. I absolutely loved Hawaii, by the way. Super high cost of living. It actually feels like I'm living in Hawaii now with the cost of living now. And I lived in Hawaii in 2008 to 2010. The prices we're paying now in the States is what Hawaii's been paying all along. I mean, if anybody should be feeling bad about the inflation, it should be those mofos, because I don't understand how anybody lived out there. I mean, there was a huge drug homeless problem out there, and I mean, it's kind of easier because there's beaches and stuff, but they're always shooing them away, you know. Don't want that, you know, impeding on tourists and stuff and locals. But anyway, I know I'm getting off topic here. I want to talk about my EDS story. This is the most important. Um, so, anyways, couldn't figure out my pain. I ended up getting medically discharged, and I was devastated. At age 30, medically discharged from the Navy, I had planned to spend the whole 20. I'm a proud veteran. I love my veteran hat. I love my veteran hat so much. I don't wear it very often lately just because it's been cold, so I wear my beanie hat that everybody sees in all my other videos that I've been posting since I started my channel. I started my channel this winter, so I mean, that's why that hat is seen a lot. As the weather gets warmer, the less clothes this girl wears. I cannot tolerate cold and I cannot tolerate hot, so I dress and bundle up the most that I can during winter and stay warm as I can, even if it means me taking a shower and having hives because of taking a shower. But mast cell pot tissues, excuse me. So anyway, I spent several years with the VA after I got out of the military. After my medical discharge, I went back home to Oregon, lived with my parents, disabled, heartbroken, not knowing what to do with myself. I had a severance pay. You know, I didn't know how disabled I was going to be. So I went through that money pretty fast because I'm like, I want to live for the now. I don't want to. What am I saving up for if I'm not going to be able to do anything? I just didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew I was disabled. I felt like I was incapable of anything. If I couldn't keep my job in the Navy, what kind of worth was I, you know? I had a really hard time adjusting from the military to the civilian time. All of a sudden, I'm able to have feelings again, and I didn't even know what feelings were because I wasn't allowed to have them a lot growing up or in the military. All my feelings were very dramatic and over the top and meltdown, tantrum, undiagnosed ADHD, being on the spectrum, learning disabilities. Like, they didn't test for all that stuff for girls back in the day when I was younger. And I still think they don't, but they're better than they were, I guess. I mean, at least the information's out there. But anyways, EDS. I just got gaslit so much, and going through the VA here in my hometown area, they assigned me a doctor. It is it's the Salem-Portland VA system. It is huge. It had way too many people, and this is 2010. Obama was on office, was he? Or was it? No. Clinton? No. It had to have been Obama. I don't know. I got out in 2010. I don't follow politics at all. I just don't. I'm sorry. I just know that, you know, presidential elections coming up this year, and I don't want any of them to win. Anyway, this is not about politics. This is about my Ehlers-Danlos. Am I getting diagnosed? But some of this is pertinent to some of it, though. the Salem-Portland VA system did not believe me that I had anything wrong with me other than bulging discs. They started diagnosing me with like psychosomatic disorder and all kinds of other mental illnesses, throwing me the gambit of more antidepressants that I've already tried in the military that didn't help my pain. But I'm like, there's not really the paperwork trail, so I will do the smart thing and do the paperwork trail again for the VA and show them that none of this works because I've already done this for 2 years. If any of this had worked, I wouldn't have been medically discharged and I wouldn't have been there to begin with. Like I was mad. I was mad about this, having to redo all the same stuff all over again, knowing that it didn't do a damn thing to help me. But let's waste the taxpayers' money and throw all these freaking drugs at me that didn't do a damn thing and end up in the flipping trash. I did give all of the medications and stuff to try at one point. None of it helped. I didn't know what the underlying cause was. So how can you treat anything if you don't understand the underlying cause? You only treat the symptoms, and that's what doctors do, is they treat the symptoms. But then they don't even know what the real symptoms are these days because Obamacare happened and everybody had to have health care and everybody was restricted to 15 minutes versus 30 minutes. Like, I witnessed all of this change while going through the VA and getting gaslit, but getting all these pills thrown at me, having all these opioids on me. Like, I was taking like hundreds a month. Like, it was crazy how many opioids I was on. And then all of a sudden, opioid crisis. Let's take it all away. And then I'm like, okay, so you refuse to help me figure out what's wrong with me by throwing all these drugs at me, but now you're taking all the drugs away and you still refuse to try and help me figure out what's wrong with me, but now you make me feel like even worse, like a piece of crap and a failure and a druggie, and now you're pulling all of my crutches away from me without me understanding what's wrong with me. But during all of this, I decided after 2 years of like a thumb up my butt, I decided, okay, I'm going to go for the vocational rehab program with the VA. Sure enough, I got approved and I got Chapter 31. Absolutely adore the program. Amazing. I got my associate's degree at the community college, and then I transferred to the Oregon State University to get my forestry degree, all while fighting the VA for my service-connected disability, going to these stupid examinations, and then trying to prove to the VA that I'm sick, and then they're like, you're not sick, there's nothing wrong with you, you're overreacting. And I'm like, I sure in the F am not. And then when I tried to go to the patient advocate because I was having so many problems with my nurse practitioner doctor, because I ended up pinching a nerve in college doing push-ups and got a trapped ulnar nerve, and I even had a nerve conduction test, showed mild entrapment. Doctor thought I was overreacting. I went to the ER, went behind her back, got the referral, got community care to pay for it. This was before community care became even as good as it is now. It was like at the very beginning. Like, I went on the news to even complain about it because I was like, this is BS. I can't get any help with all my problems. They just want to throw these medications at me, and I had a whole counter of all these medications. I mean, I was on the local news. I had my 15 seconds of fame. But yeah, they just didn't want to help me figure out the problem. They're like, everybody's got bulging discs. They were just minimizing everything. It's just mild entrapment. Although I couldn't hold a toothbrush without so much pain and numbness and tingling down my arm, and I couldn't type my assignments in time. Like, I was late on assignments all the freaking time. Not only because of my ADHD and procrastination, but because now I had a physical problem, and then the disability offices at Oregon State University wouldn't give me the accommodation for extra time on assignments. So the instructors or professors that went by the book with that disability services office, they gave me bad grades because I couldn't get stuff in on time, which affected my GPA and affected me having to take a course like 2 to 3 times again. But other professors were bomb as F, and I had a great relationship with them and talked with them and communicated all the time and told them what the hell was going on, what the doctors were doing to me, they were in on it. They knew what was going on, and they gave me the extensions, and I got my degree. But in the meantime, I had ulnar nerve surgery, which I had to schedule while I had to do an internship in order to get my degree, because I had to do a requirement of so many hours of interning with the Forest Service for my forestry degree. I basically had to do 2 summers into one and hope that they kept me long enough so I can get the required hours. All while I had surgery and had to do restricted field work. I was supposed to go out in the field and do work, and then I was stuck in the office doing piddly little paperwork stuff that they really didn't need me to do, and they were like, it's kind of a waste of their time, but they allowed it anyways. So thank goodness. But I was still also trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I started connecting the dots with Ehlers-Danlos when I had my ulnar nerve surgery. The ulnar nerve doctor, during one of my follow-ups after my surgery, he was like, I was telling him all my problems. I'm like, I think it's like scleroderma. And he's like, no, I think it's a collagen connective tissue disorder. Boom, I looked it up, EDS. Boom, that explained everything to the T. And I'm like, son of a bee. And what's even worse is because right after I got out in that 2 years of thumbs up my butt before I decided to go to college, I had gotten into a rear-end accident with my mom. I know. I was a passenger in her car. And so not only was I discharged from the military, but a few months later I got rear-ended, and that really messed up my back even more, and so much more pain. And then it took me 2 years of treatment with that car accident to settle it, sue the insurance company for the pain and suffering, for aggravating my pain. I was just disabled from the military, and then they just disabled me more right when I was just more disabled. But at that time, I was using the car insurance money instead of the VA, and I was seeing different doctors. I went to an injury specialist. He gave me some weird shots in my head, like it felt like a bowling ball. It was so crazy. I know I'm all over the place with this story, but I went through so much just to get to the point of my EDS diagnosis. And the hell of it is, during this injury specialist, he sent me to a neurosurgeon. She's the one that told me to go gluten-free. She's the one that told me I needed to see if going gluten-free would help up my healing and recovery. Sure in the F it did. I started feeling better, and I started actually healing from the car accident after I started going gluten-free. And I'm like, I might actually have celiac. And I was like, son of a bee. Now this was like a year and a couple months after that I finally got into the VA and finally got my endoscopy and found out, boom, celiac disease. And I tell you what, the VA still denies me for that service connection disability, all because it was their wait times that delayed my endoscopy that put me right outside that window to get that connection, to get that service connection disability percentage. I'm still fuming about it, and I still may go after it again and appeal it and just go after it again, because that's BS. That's a bunch of BS. I scheduled that endoscopy in time, but due to not having community care, the Obamacare stuff going through the Congress and all that kind of stuff at the same time, Congress were fighting for veterans to be able to be seen out in the community because of wait times. Too many veterans were dying at that time because the wait times were ridiculous. Kind of like what's going on right now in society. But whatever, I'm not going to bring that up again. I'm not disgruntled or anything. Wait up. Here's my veteran picture, or my military picture. That was me. Just to prove, yeah, I was in the Navy. That was me. Me, young me. And so, that was right around boot camp. I got that picture done. I was 20 years old. 20 years old right here. Now I'm 43. I was actually a lot heavier in that picture too. I weighed like 140 around that. Yeah. I got way heavier on the surface though because I drink a lot of beer. But okay, EDS diagnosis. So after going to the patient advocate and being in the Salem Portland VA, I know I skipped around, dang it. I keep going back and forth. Where did I leave off? Neurosurgeon. I'll go back to the neurosurgeon. Neurosurgeon, from that car accident right after I got out of the service, that injury specialist sent me to a neurosurgeon, and that neurosurgeon suggested I had celiac. I got diagnosed celiac. But what I did not, I did see it. I did see it at that point in time, but I totally forgot about it. It mentions something about celiac, MTHFR mutation. I should be checked for that. And Ehlers-Danlos syndrome suspected. And I'm like, and I looked it up at that time, and in 2010 there wasn't that much information about EDS. And so all I understood about EDS is I had hypermobile joints, and I'm like, well, yeah, I've always known I've had like extra bendy joints and stuff. I shouldn't be doing the party tricks. I have arthritis now. So, but this is the one that I can do the best. And also touching my hands down to the ground. My shoulders are effed. I need to anchor my left shoulder. I didn't anchor in this shoulder because I had a chiropractor tear it. It just doesn't sit the same. And so then all my ligaments and tendons pull my first, second, and third ribs out all the time, and it sucks. All right. Anyway, that's my instability with my EDS now. But, so, there was nothing really out at the time in 2010 about EDS. I mean, there's just the limited amount of information I could find was just, you know, okay, extra bendy joints. I don't think I have any of the other issues, you know. Little did I know. My next diagnosis was also Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I was more just subclinical hypothyroid, but later on I forced a doctor to test my antibodies to make sure that it was autoimmune, and yeah, it's autoimmune type. So I basically am, my thyroid's just getting destroyed. It's getting destroyed. I wished I could stop it, but it's going to get destroyed. I've tried the Synthroid stuff. It gives me too many other side effects. It's the fillers, the binders. I was hoping that they could come up with some better medication by the time my disease progressed further, but still the best I ever did on was the pig hormone, the Armour thyroid. I responded really good to that. I responded better to that by the synthetic kind. It's the synthetic stuff that I'm allergic to. It's the binders. It's the stuff that it binds it together. My body doesn't like not natural, but it also doesn't like a lot of other natural things. I don't know. My body is just weird. That's why I consider myself alien. I seriously almost answered on some of my medical paperwork the other day that I identify as alien. Like, I seriously almost did. I wanted to so bad, because I do identify as alien. But I don't know if that's really legit or not. So anyways, I was filling out my paperwork and came across my EDS thing, and it was so hard to get diagnosed because, you know, little did I know anything about it in 2010, but then I go on, like, you know, go on another 10 years, going through college, or another 8 years. So, like, fast forward to, like, 2017 or so, Um, 2018. I graduated college with my forestry degree, and I moved over to Eastern Oregon to do my job. It was temporary, seasonal. I was hoping it could maybe lead into some permanent work, but I knew it was only going to be temporary. I had my degree, and it was a good start to have at least one more than just my internship under my belt. I had 2 summers. I'll have had 2 summers under my belt, and that would have looked great on my resume to get my forestry management job that I wanted. But due to all my disabilities, I was having some struggles even during that internship. But my VA doctor transferred my care over to the Eastern Oregon VA, the local one close. And the town was like a good half-hour drive from where my city was. I lived in Baker City, and the VA was in La Grande, I think it was. But they're part of the Walla Walla, Washington VA system, which is just like 6 miles north of the border of Oregon. So, I mean, it's really just an extension of Oregon to me. It just didn't seem like Washington. Washington seems like Seattle and Western, Washington to me. Eastern side of Oregon and Washington are kind of just the same to me. They're just kind of But I really loved Baker City. I thought it was a beautiful city to live in. However, so the Salem Portland VA told me that they don't do genomic testing or any kind of testing for Ehlers-Danlos. I tried to see a rheumatologist with the Salem Portland VA. I talked to many doctors in the VA on the western side. None of them were like very conducive to helping me at all. They were like, no, you don't got that. No, we're not testing that. No, we don't do that. And then I talked to the patient advocate, and they're like, well, you can request for another doctor, but I guarantee you're not going to get one because there's too many people on the waiting list. And this was before community care, so remind you, not community care yet. They're like, more veterans either got to die or move away. I can't believe I heard the patient advocate say this to me. Veterans need to die or move away in order for you to get a new doctor. Way to make it sound like I'm selfish. Like, I tried to bring, like, a couple years later, I tried to bring it up again. I'm like, I am having problems with my doctor. I had that surgery, that ulnar nerve surgery. And my doctor, to my face, told me I was stupid for choosing to have that surgery. Because I went behind her back and got some other doctor's permission to do it because she didn't think it was a big deal. She's like, it's mild. You're overreacting. I couldn't do my assignments or brush my teeth, and I'm overreacting to them. So basically, every doctor was just like not helpful in the Salem Portland VA. Even in the Salem Portland hospital, I finally, like, once community care was approved, that's when I finally started getting help. And I finally started getting help when I got the VA over in Eastern Oregon and Washington to send me to genomic testing to get my hEDS diagnosis. I moved 300 miles away. So that's not even the whole story here. So, like, I was at 90% disability, still fighting for my 100%. I could not afford to live. That's also why I took that 6-month or that summer internship in Eastern Oregon. I was hoping it would be permanent, but it wasn't. I was hoping to get help, and I was finally getting my medical help with the hEDS diagnosis over there that I'm like, maybe I can just stay over here. So I had to look at my options. I tried to sign up for financial assistance, Section 8 housing. I still made too much money on my $1,300, 90% disability. My car payment was like almost half that. My insurance payment, like half of that went to just that. How can I afford rent and anything? So I talked to the HUD-VASH in Walla Walla, Washington, and the VA people there, and the social worker. They were godsends. They told me everything I needed to know. They knew the cap that I could get in order to get assistance. There were 2 locations, Bend, Oregon, and Walla Walla, Washington. At 90% disability, it was not too much income in order to get HUD-VASH help. I didn't really get any rent assistance, but I did get Section 8 housing, which was affordable for me within my budget. I think I got a total of $60 discount or something. The landlord was great though, and the landlord worked with me. I ended up in a studio apartment, but in order to get my 100% disability, I had to move 300 miles away from everybody I know, all my family and friends and everything, 300 miles into a studio apartment all by myself, dealing with my medical problems. And that was about the time I felt like I was starting to die and living in my apartment up there. After my job was over and I got the diagnosis and stuff, and I was just trying to fight for my 100% disability and just keep getting the help that I needed. I kept getting the referrals that I needed from the Walla Walla VA system in order. So what I had to do is, all the specialists were in Portland, Oregon. So I had to move to Walla Walla, Washington, 300 miles northeast from my parents into another state in order to get the VA to help me, because that VA system is separate from the Salem-Portland VA system. These guys have way too many people because of the population. This side of the state doesn't have that big of a population, so it's a smaller VA community, but still it's a full hospital system. And they had room for patients, and I could request whatever doctor I needed. And I actually requested the doctor that used to be my parents' doctor, that was a civilian doctor before he moved. Like, he was my parents' doctor, and then he quit and moved to the Walla Walla VA system, and then incidentally, that's where I was going. So he knew my parents, he knew some of my family history. I thought that was a great idea. So I asked him to be my provider. So I was able to get him to be my provider. I got a psychiatrist on board to help me with my mental health. I did a lot of pain management classes while I was there. I used to hang out at the VA hospital and talking to all the veterans. It was such a great experience. I absolutely loved the Walla Walla VA. I love the hospital. I love the workers. I had all the extensions to all the community care people, to all the different specialties. Every time my authorization needed to be authorized, I could call them. They knew who I was. They always had to verify my information, of course, every time, but they knew who I was, and I could walk into the VA, and all of them were smiles. I would always smile and, you know, bring cheer to them working too at the same time. It was a great, great community. I absolutely loved it. My social worker was amazing. He had the best knowledge about how all the systems worked and all the places I needed to go to get different help for different things, for everything I needed, like special modifications for my house, modifications for my car. Like, he knew everything. And he was the kindest guy ever. And he taught Tai Chi for the VA program and like for the veterans for classes and stuff, extracurriculars for people. Like, I absolutely love the smaller town Walla Walla VA system. It was amazing. COVID happened and screwed it all up. Even right before COVID, like, I had therapy going. I had a social worker. It took me 2 years to get a therapist. I lived in Walla Walla for like 4 or 5 years. It took me a little bit to get my 100%. But I had to drive 300 miles back and forth like every other week to go to these doctor appointments in Portland, and then go back to Walla Walla because I'd have to see doctors at the VA there and get my prescriptions there. And then I'd have to go all the way to my parents' house and then drive from my parents' house an hour up north to Portland to go to those doctors, and then drive all the way back down and then try and get paid mileage reimbursement back and forth, turning in paperwork, like trying to get all my doctors to communicate, like my community providers with my VA providers. I would hand them copies of the papers and it still wouldn't make it in my record. Like, no matter what I did, I just could not get anything done and accomplished because they stopped doing things in person with COVID. And then the fax machines never worked, and then they don't do anything because of no security email. So I can't like give them any kind of like HIPAA violated kind of paperwork, even though I don't care. Like, let me send it to you. I don't give a fuck. Just get it. Sorry for my language. I just, from the gaslighting to the hardship in trying to get care, trying to get medical treatment, driving 300 miles back and forth, nonstop, having to go to food banks at certain hours because I couldn't afford food, and then having celiac disease and telling the food bank, I can't have this food, I can't have that food, I can't have this food. And then I can't even get food stamps because I make too much money on my 90% disability. I couldn't get food stamps. Even with having celiac disease, and it's expensive having celiac disease. I can't even eat processed foods anyway now, so like I don't even eat anything that's really labeled gluten free except for like maybe some bread, but I try to avoid bread too because it's a trigger for me. It's hard. It was hard to get my diagnosis. I had to jump through hoops. I went through rheumatology. I went through uh, pain management after pain management doctor after neurologist, neurosurgeon. Like nobody could give me answers. And then I finally figured out the Ehlers-Danlos component, and I finally got that. And then I was finally starting to get listened to, and then I was finally able to get tethered cord release on my spinal cord because I had tethered spinal cord. And that was really the undoing of everything. Like my upper back pain went away after my tethered cord got released. I didn't really have much pain. I had like regular arthritis pain and stuff, but like I didn't really have as much pain after my last sinus surgery I had. It was the best surgery I ever had outside of the military. I had like 5 sinus surgeries total now. I The road to diagnosis to EDS is hard and long, and there's so much PTSD behind it. Like I was triggered today just by my gastroenterologist uh, saying how much I've changed my life. I've changed my life so much just to try and accommodate celiac disease, Hashimoto's, uh, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, mast cell, POTS, having to wear compression this, drink this for so much before I have to eat or drink anything, take this medication, take that medication. This one interacts with that one, so I can't have that. I can't eat this food because it triggers this. I can't have my cat anymore because my cat was an allergy then. Uh, she passed away. Rip Loki. I miss my Loki cat. But I was getting to be highly allergic to her in the end of her life. It was really rough for both of us. Now I got a doggy, Stormy dog. Trying to be my service dog, but man, I'm torn every which way right now. But I just wanted to tell you my Ehlers-Danlos story. It took me so much to get. I had to drive 300 miles back and forth between doctors and specialists, and I had to move 300 miles away in order to get the VA to work for me because the VA wasn't working for me where I lived. I had to move away from everything that I knew. My mental health suffered so much for so long because I was isolated away from everybody. And the only interactions I had were with doctors, and they were so busy gaslighting me and making me feel like crap. I didn't have any friends, and I'm still trying to rebuild my friendships with my friends. The only interactions I had was negative ones for so many years with doctors. And how can I even begin to trust anybody, even doctors? Because everybody abandons me. Because I'm too much. I exaggerate or I'm dramatic. But no, it's really just me, and I'm alien. So, I mean, what can I say? So getting my diagnosis was really, really hard. It went from not knowing what was going on to bulging disc to finding out I had Chiari malformation to say no, he can't be causing that pain. And then like having nerve conduction tests and showing mild entrapment in places or mild, signal. And uh, I have carpal tunnel. I don't really have, that stuff doesn't really bother me though. I think it's the EDS that's a blessing in that part. So, until the arthritis gets bad. I don't have too much because I think I keep my hands busy enough, but not too busy with my video games. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm thankful that I don't have that much problems with my hands yet. So that is my Ehlers-Danlos story. I felt like I really, really needed to talk about it. It was missed. I knew about it, and then it was missed and forgotten about, and then I revisited it, and all because of my ulnar nerve surgery is because the reason I looked up collagen connective tissue disease and Ehlers-Danlos popped up, and then it rang a bell. And I'm like, oh my God, it's been under my nose this whole time. I went 8 years of like deep, deep research while I was getting my forestry degree of like thinking it's like X chromosome problem, like Marfan syndrome, like Lloyd Dietz syndrome. Like there's so many things that are so many overlapping, and just it's crazy that we like it wasn't missed, but it was. I could have saved myself so much time, and I wished I had had all the information that I had sooner, but it wasn't really known. I mean, 2010 was so early for the EDS movement and awareness movement. But there's so much more now, and I'm so happy to try and share it now because it doesn't have to be as hard as it has been for me. And I know some of my friends that still cannot get sent to genomics for it. I don't know why. What is it going to take for these doctors to send us to get a clinical diagnosis that they themselves can freaking do? But the exam that I went through, I don't see a physician ever wanting to take the time to try and figure that out. It's not only the Beighton scale. You can hit all points on the Beighton scale and still not have EDS. It has to do with family history. It has to do with arm span. It has to do with certain measurements. And I had all the marks. It's just, there's so much overlap between all 13 different types. Thank goodness mine's not the more dangerous ones. Not to say that these other ones aren't dangerous, because I feel like all EDS is dangerous to an extent because our blood vessels are made of connective tissue, which are very hypermobile. Our heart is a muscle. We have connective tissue in every organ, including our skin. So if there's something going on with things, it's an indicator. If there's something going on with your skin, it's an indicator there's something going on the inside. You've got to investigate. I've known for a long time I've needed to investigate. I just didn't know what or how. And so that's why I'm sharing this awareness. This is what it took for me to get diagnosed. I went through a lot of trial and error. I went through a lot of imaging. I went through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears trying to convince doctors I'm worth it to go test. My hair got all super flat with my hat on. I'm not wearing it to bed, so. I just hope that everybody else can have an easier time getting diagnosed if they have it. I mean, if you can pray behind your back, that is just one major sign. So, it can be done. It doesn't have to be hard. I hope you all don't have to suffer like I've had to suffer getting the help that I need. Traveling over 300 miles for about 3 to 4 years straight just to get treatment. And it's not even treatment that's really helped. It's just more puzzles, pieces to my puzzle. More pieces to my puzzle. The layers of my onion are still being unraveled, and I still don't know what it's going to take to get this completely better. Well, to an average better. There's no way I'm getting back to 100%. But I'm striving for at least 90%. I know I can do it. And I know you can too. Never give up. Keep fighting. I am a chronic illness warrior, Navy veteran. And I'm here to inspire you. Never give up.